Hi, everybody. I just want to thank you for tuning in. Alas, the wait is over. Finally, this is a brand new episode of The Randy Rex Show. So this episode of The Randy Rex Show, we are actually saying goodbye to some of our other shows, and they're moving on to a different show, The Housewives Hangout. This is the penultimate episode of The Randy Rex Show. Next week is the finale. So in this show, I'm going to be covering Survivor and The Comeback. Next week, Survivor ends as the Randy Rex Show will end. But on the Housewives Hour and the Housewives Hangout, we will always be talking about what housewives are going on. And that's where shows like Euphoria are going to live, in a little bonus section where we can all keep up with those TV shows that we love. So yeah, welcome to the show. Welcome back. I went to New York for the very first time this Wednesday to go to the RHAP live event. I got my book. I watched the episode with 1,500 other fans. The largest Survivor fan event to ever happen in the world. And it was such a blast, to say the least. It was the most amazing time. Of course, we got to see the show. He did his show live, and Parvati and Danielle were co-hosts. They were such joys. Like, the whole experience was amazing and phenomenal. I'm still very exhausted from it all, but that is why there's been such a delay in me coming on here and talking about all of my favorite shows like The Comeback, Daredevil. But yeah, here I am. I am back in action, and I'm going to tell you all about it. So this week in Survivor, obviously I watched it at the town hall in New York City with 1,500 people, 1,500 people. It was such an epic event. And I have to say, some highlights for the episode. Even right as the beginning of the show came on and we got the opening sequence, fans were cheering for people that they love. They were booing for people that they did not love. Right from the jump, immediately, even before the show started, as soon as I walked into the area, the energy was insane. Like, it was just like right there, as soon as you walked into the whole venue, it was just amazing. I felt so at home, and it's so funny because the way that everything worked out, and I ended up getting there not right before the show started, maybe like 7:50. So just within enough time. I got my book as soon as I walked in. Obviously, I didn't personally get this signed, but I got a signed copy of his book. I have not begun to read it yet. I'm still reading Escape. And also, I just got back, and I'm exhausted. But other big moments that people freaked out at in the show, right off the bat at the beginning of the episode, where Devins is running up and down, dancing, acting like a silly mess because now there's $2 million up for grabs. The audience loved that. We laughed, we cheered. It was so heartwarming and so refreshing to see that. The immunity challenge, whenever everyone was dropping and Tiffany was the one person standing up there, the audience lost their mind. And the same thing in the opposite way, whenever Jeff was like, wait a minute, actually, Tiffany, you didn't win that. Jonathan won that. That was my bad. It was like, oh my God, you have to be kidding me. And then his reward So that's what everyone is talking about. You know, Jeff's like, there's gonna be a twist tonight. And basically, they do this immunity challenge. Final 9. Jonathan wins. He's immune. The rest of the 8 tribe members are getting divided into groups of 4. They're both going to tribal. They're both voting someone out. And twisty upon twist, Jonathan is going to be able to go back and forth between both camps, strategize with both camps, and vote in each tribal council. So essentially, in the first group, we see the showdown between Rick and Emily and Tiffany and Suri. What a sad, sad group. And even the audience could tell, like, we just love these group of people. We don't want to see them vote anyone out. And it was like Emily and Devins were going for Suri's neck, and Suri and Tiffany were gonna do everything they could to pull Tiffany under and throw her to the jury, basically. And that's exactly what happened. So Suri used her extra vote. There was a tie, but when they did the re-vote, Suri still had her extra vote and Emily was voted out. I was shocked. I thought it was going to be another tie, but Jeff kept reading votes. I'm like, wait a minute, how many people are voting here? So in the second, so they send Emily straight to the jury. Everyone leaves. Well, Devin, Suri, and Tiffany. Jonathan stays there, and then the next tribe of 4 people come in. And they proceed to vote out Ozzy. And Ozzy is sitting here thinking that they're going to vote out Aubrey. He's even telling Aubrey his final 3 jury speech so she can go and spread that to the rest of the jury members and not only be a vote for him at the end, because he's going to make it to the end, right? But also spread the good word of Ozzy and his tremendous gameplay, his, their need to vote for him to win. Oh my God, it was so beautiful. Aubrey was there. I watched this episode with Aubrey. I love Aubrey. I regret at one point they brought her out and I was going to be like, I love you, Aubrey. I didn't do it. I don't know why. There was just so much going on. I forgot, like how she told them about her idol. And I didn't do it, but still, I got to watch the episode with her. And at this scene, she's just giving the camera so many side eyes, so many faces. And if you know me, I'm all about side eyes. I'm all about faces. So it was such a joy, the whole experience. And, she was not going to let Ozzy get away with that. And she told everyone. It becomes this whole thing where it's like, they're going to vote Ozzy. And Ozzy is thinking, oh, it's going to be Aubrey. He even goes on about how he had a dream. Like, he tells them at the beginning of the episode, and then he tells Jeff at Tribal that he literally had a dream the night before where he was getting voted out. And Jeff asked him what happened, and he said, I don't know. I had an idol, and I didn't play it. And he walked out with his idol. And we do hear from Suri as Jonathan is going back and forth and relaying information. She's like, I don't want Ozzy to go. I don't want that to be their target. If they want to vote him and he play his idol, that's another thing. If we get rid of these idols, that's one thing. She starts talking about getting rid of that idol, Christian's idol, other advantages, I think. And she's basically like, they showed a clip from, Game Changers, where she got idoled out. And that was another space where the audience was like, oh, and like they were just cheering for her, advocating for herself, and to make sure that does not happen again. She's like, I am getting rid of these idols. I am not going to the end with these guys or with anyone with advantages. Like, this is just not going to happen again. That was amazing. The episode was great. So now we're down to the final 7. If there's any other thing that I would like to highlight or mention from this episode, I loved how Aubrey really has still been coming into her own There was that one scene where Jonathan went to her and told her, hey, this is what's going on. She's like, I've been playing the game. This is like my 4th time. I know what's going on. You don't gotta come over here and tell me, bitch. So there's that. So in this last episode of Survivor, we got another double elimination. In the first round, we had to say goodbye to Rick Devens. It was very sad. He really didn't have anything to save him, like anything that he did have to save him. He exhausted all of that. Like, he looked for the idol, didn't find it. Obviously, he was in the immunity challenge, didn't win it. So, you know, he was too hot to trot. Like, even in the tribal council, Suri's talking about how, like, he's the biggest threat out there right now. And I'm sitting there thinking, like, you're Suri Fields. That's crazy that they're overlooking her to go for him. But, you know, whatever, he is the biggest threat out there at that time. So they got rid of Rick. So now with Rick gone, there's only 6 people left in the game. Before we get into the next elimination, you know, we're seeing a lot more of Aubrey. We keep seeing more of Aubrey. And of course, people are talking about it online, about how, oh, it's Aubrey's winner edit. And I really didn't see that until this past episode, where she is just such a main character. Of course, that doesn't mean anything, because all of our main characters for this season are pretty much gone right now. So there is that going on with Aubrey, and we are getting more of her insight in exactly what her thought process is behind her decision and, you know, the decisions she is making. So after the Rick Devens vote out tribal, we see that Tiffany is talking to Aubrey and Jonathan about Rizzo's idol and how they want to get rid of she wants to get rid of the idol or Rizzo. Ultimately, Tiffany seems like she is the main target coming out of this final 6, but she wins immunity. Then Suri starts freaking out because she's like, if Tiffany was the first target, I'm probably next on the list. And she was right. They all start to come for Suri after Tiffany wins the immunity and they realize they can't go for her. Like, Aubrey, Rizzo, Joe, Jonathan all vote for Suri, and Suri is the second person voted out of this episode, the 19th person voted out of the season, and it is just such a sad story to see. I love Suri so much, and she's played such a fierce game to come in here at the final 6. Now that we are left with the final 5, it's pretty dicey, because I have 2 people still on my hit list, Joe and Jonathan. I absolutely do not want one of them to win. Right smack dab in the middle is Rizzo. I would be okay if he won. And then, of course, all I have left for people that I want to win are Tiffany and Aubrey. If Aubrey ends up taking the season, it's going to be a game changer. I don't want to get my hopes up, because look what happened with Devens and Suri this episode. You know, you think you might have so many people, and then at the end of the day, they just end up the next people voted out. So, we'll see. I will be just as happy if Tiffany wins, but obviously Tiffany's a newer player. She's only played one other time, only got so far where Aubrey has played multiple times. And, you know, she has that Survivor lore to her. She's not just another player. She's like a legendary player. So we'll see what happens next week on the finale. So in the finale of Daredevil, we get a lot. We see that Wilson Fisk finally gives in to Daredevil. He takes the deal, I think it's from the governor, about him moving out of New York, and they won't prosecute him for any of his crimes. He takes it, and he is off on an island by himself. Daredevil, now having exposed himself as Matt Murdock. That's what happens in this episode. He does go and cross-examine the Kingpin, and the Kingpin is pushing at him, telling him not to go this route, like this line of questioning, because he can really F Matt up, and he doesn't want Matt to do that. This whole time I'm like not knowing exactly what he's talking about, but really essentially what he's talking about is the fact that he is Daredevil. But Matt beats him to the punch. He announces it right there, and then in some way they're able to get Karen acquitted, and basically it's the end of the trial. At the end of the episode, we do see that Matt gets arrested, and we kind of knew that was going to happen because we saw some of the photos from season 3 being filmed right now. And we also got to see Luke Cage, and we discovered that he is the father of Jessica Jones's daughter. So that was pretty cool. We also see that Bullseye takes over somebody's position in Charles's little crew, in Luke Cage's position, because that's what Jessica asked him, and he's like, no, he found somebody else. So now Bullseye is going to get involved with this guy, Charles, Matthew Lillard's character, who I need to do more research on because I don't know who he is. I don't know what the fact that his character is there is supposed to mean, or what is that signaling us to what's going to happen within this storyline. Here next week on Tuesday, May the 12th, we're getting The Punisher, One Last Shot. So that is going to be another chapter in this whole story, which is going to connect to the Spider-Man movie coming out later this year in July. There's a lot of flack for the comeback not being that funny this season, and that might be true, but this episode in particular was pretty funny. They had the whole scene where they're at the coffee shop, and it's full of angry writers, and they throw coffee on Billy and on Valerie. So that was hilarious. The whole time her bodyguard and her personal assistant are getting their own coffee, and Jane comes back to work for Valerie. She doesn't want to work for some big conglomerate corporation anymore, and she's there to tell the truth. We also see that people that work with Valerie are upset, and they even quit and walk off the set. Last episode, we saw the news broke that her show was being written by AI. So in the aftermath and the explosion of her taking all of the heat, we also saw that last episode. She was the one being pinned for doing this. And in this episode, she decides not to go do press for How's That because of the fact that, you know, there's just so much negativity around the AI of it all and her. So by the end of the episode, Valerie does go to the press, you know, junket, whatever it's called, for How's That. And she meets with an executive after who confesses to her that they are the ones that leaked the information so the show could get some traction, so it could get some publicity. And she's kind of in shock. And she is even more in shock when she sees Billy dressed like Lady Gaga in the early 2010s. In the finale of the comeback, you know, it wasn't hilarious like it had been in the past. Yeah, that's true. But it was a good story, and I like how they ended it, where the show premieres and they have a pretty decent reception. They did later we find out they did a 2-episode premiere, and there was not a big drop off from the first episode to the second episode. 72% of people stuck around for the second episode. So the people over there at NewNet, who are, you know, the executives at this company, want Valerie to go do this little, like, live little press thing to promote Newnet, the show's reception, and they're going to announce that they got a season 2. Valerie is on set and there's taking a break, and she gets pulled away to talk to some like big wig writer who is also working at the same studio, just on a different location. And he has these other 2 big wigs with him. And they're like these 3 power players in Hollywood at the moment, where they're just like the big writers everyone wants to work with. And they're basically like, hey, did they ask you to go do this? She's like, yes. And then they're like, okay, well, you need to tell them that like you can't do it, or like you need to say something about how like it doesn't work, because if you go on there and promote this and it becomes what they want it to become, it's going to send out the message that Hollywood is done with writers. And she's like, no, that's not what this is. This is just about the show and like the season 2. And, you know, if I go up there and say that AI is bad, it's not like all of these other studios that are working with AI are going to be like, hey, you know, did you see Valerie Cherish saying AI is bad? We need to stop. Like, Valerie Cherish, yeah, we need to pull the plug. Like, and they're like, okay, we get it. I can't do this because there's like 200 people that work on her show. And they're like, okay, we get it. Yeah. So she goes. So like she does the little press thing, and she tells them like, you know, AI is not perfect because like we hit a paywall. That's another thing. They hit a paywall earlier in the episode where they needed a better joke. And when they went to Al, the AI assistant they have, it wasn't working. And they found out it's because there's this whole paywall thing with the AI that the company is using, because their show is not the only show that's using Al Assistant. So they're basically shit out of luck. Valerie ropes in this guy she knows wanted to be a writer, and so he kind of saves them and writes a joke for them, and it's this whole thing. She mentions this at the press conference or whatever, and she's like, you know, AI isn't perfect. Like, this is a perfect example of how it failed us, and a real human being had to come in here and save our ass. Of course, the guy didn't like that, and they have a conversation after the fact where basically Valerie just tells him to go shove it. Like, she doesn't want to be a part of a show that is going to be mediocre. And he's telling her, like, you know, you're not getting a showrunner next year. You're not getting any writers. It's going to be bare bones. And she was like, that's just going to be, like, basic. Like, that's not going to be anything extraordinary. He's like, that's what we're looking for. We're looking for basic. We're not looking for anything extraordinary. And she's like, well, you know what? I'm out. You can't do it without me. He's like, yeah, we can. We can use the body scan we did of you. And, you know, that's this whole plot line of this show, is where AI is taking over Hollywood and how they can use it, and, like, that coupled with images of the real person, like body scans of the real person, and they can have them do whatever they want. They can do a whole series around it. So it's a really fascinating idea, and I love that they did that for the last season of The Comeback. Really, the show wraps up with Valerie doing that, saying goodbye to them, going to work for one of those 3 writers that she met earlier, and that being its own success. So that's The Comeback. Goodbye, Valerie Cherish. Goodbye, The Comeback. So I hope you enjoyed the show as much as I enjoyed making it. It has been such a long, exhausting, fun week, to say the least. But I hope that you all are enjoying whatever it is that brings you joy in this life, whether it be movies, TV, books, art, sports. As long as you're not hurting anyone and you are loving what you're doing, go for it.